Do you want to set your Nikon camera up for nailing the most beautiful nature photos? And do you hate missing shots because of fumbling around with settings on your camera? In this video, I'll share with you how you can set up your Nikon camera for getting amazing wildlife photos. I use the Nikon CZ2, but you should be able to set this up on most Nikon models, even the older DSLR models. So let's get started with the best Nikon settings for nature photography. Now, the first thing that I always do when I get a new camera in my hand is to make sure that it's set up for RAW shooting. I never shoot in JPEG, and there are two reasons for this. First, it's much easier to push them in post-processing because you gather much more image data. If you don't have the data, you can't push them in post-processing. The second thing is that I don't have to worry about white balance if I shoot in RAW, because with RAW you can change it in post-processing. You can't do that with JPEG files. You have to choose the correct white balance from the start, and sometimes I simply forget this. So setting up your camera for shooting in RAW is just a setting that you can set and then forget about it. To set up your Nikon camera for shooting in RAW, press the I button on the back of the camera and then go into image quality and make sure that it's set for RAW. You can also change this from the photo shooting menu by going to image quality and then choose RAW. And also, while you're there, make sure that the image size is set to RAW large. For wildlife and nature photography, I also always shoot in continuous high frame rate. I never switch to continuous low or single shot. Single shot might be good for product photography or portrait, definitely not for wildlife. So I always have the setting on continuous high. And it doesn't matter if it's wildlife photography or macro photography. Most of the times I shoot in bursts of shots, and then I pick the best one out of each burst of shots. Especially if you're into macro photography, then you'll often miss the focus by just a tiny bit, and then the burst of shot is preferred. So set it to continuous high and then forget about it. Change your camera's frame rate by pressing the dedicated frame rate button, or on the I menu by going to the release mode and set it to continuous high. Now, the next setting is mainly a set and forget settings, but you have to change it sometimes. It's about metering. Per default, I shoot in matrix metering, but there are occasions when I want to switch to spot metering. So for instance, if I want to capture a bird against the sky, or a bright bird that's perched in an area with a very dark background, to make sure that I expose for the bird and not for the background or the sky. It's the subject that I want to expose for in these scenarios. But the setting that I use 90% of the time or something like that is matrix metering. The metering option is also available from the I menu. Make sure it's set to matrix metering. Now, one of the great advantages of mirrorless cameras is that you can set it to silent mode. And this is perfect for nature photography when you don't want to draw attention to yourself or your presence. So if you're in a hide, you can be completely still. No annoying shutter that can startle off animals. For nature photography, silent photography mode is also a set and forget option. You don't have to worry about it. Just turn off all noises and beeps and you're good to go. To set up silent photography, go into the photo shooting menu, press up to get to silent photography and set it to on. Next, I suggest that you start using back button focus. For me, this ensures that I don't have all the issues of switching between continuous focus, single focus, and all the issues with the trigger button wanting to acquire focus every time you recompose. These issues are simply gone when you use back button focus. You get the benefit of both shooting in AFC autofocus continuous, but also the benefits of AFS autofocus single. You simply just let go of the focus button on the back when you don't want to focus anymore. It's really simple. One button for focusing on the back of your camera and one for taking a shot. Set up back button focus by going to the custom settings menu. Choose autofocus and then go down to AF activation and then change the option to AF on only. Next, go into the I menu and make sure that the focus mode is set to AFC, which is continuous autofocus. Now your camera is set up to use back button focus. Now, about focusing, I usually use a single autofocus point if the subject is close enough to me so I can position the autofocus point over the eye. Otherwise, I'll use dynamic autofocus or maybe even wide AF. I also make sure that my camera is set to prioritize the trigger button instead of acquiring focus. So you simply set the shutter release priority to release. But why would I want to let the camera start to take photos even though it didn't acquire focus yet? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I shoot in bursts of shots, and I don't mind if when I track a bird or an animal, I don't mind that the first couple of shots are not in focus. And furthermore, I don't want the camera to take photos even though it doesn't think that the focus is 100% perfect. Maybe it's acceptable, and I don't want to miss that shot. Furthermore, I think that if the camera only takes a shot when it's 100% certain that the shot is in focus, then because wildlife moves very fast, then it may lose focus again, and I don't get any shots. I don't want that. You can set up your camera to prioritizing taking a shot instead of acquiring focus from the custom settings menu. Choose the autofocus option and go into the AFC priority selection. Make sure that this is set to release. Do you use the custom modes on your camera? I think you should, because in that way you can group settings for different scenarios. For instance, I use custom setting 1 for macro, custom setting 2 for wildlife, and custom setting 3 for landscape. If I suddenly want to switch over to wildlife photography, then I only have to change the lens and switch to using custom mode 2 for wildlife. And that's it. Then I have my favorite settings for wildlife photography right at my fingertips. Make all the settings you want to put into a custom mode, and then go into the setup menu and choose save user settings, and then you save it to the spot that you want. And you do this for each group of settings. I'll make another video of how to do this in detail and which settings I prefer to put into each custom shooting mode. One setting that made a huge difference in my photography was when I started using auto ISO in manual mode. I almost never shoot in any other mode. When you enable auto ISO, there's one less factor to concentrate about, one less setting that you have to get right, and there are almost no downside. You can enable auto ISO by pressing down the ISO button while at the same time turning the front command down. Auto ISO in manual mode makes you so much faster. So when you're out shooting, all you have to worry about actually is your focus mode, the shutter speed, and the aperture. The rest is almost set and forget settings. So I highly suggest that you simplify the way you shoot by using auto ISO in manual mode. If you want to learn more about auto ISO in manual mode, then you need to check this video right here. See you over there.